Why would someone make their teachings a secret? Because society turns to persecution of anything it does not agree with. As you begin to understand what other people don't, there can be a temptation to use that knowledge to manipulate others. What do important names in the history of humanity, such as Leonardo da Vinci, Paracelso, René Descartes, Isaac Newton, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Eric Satie have in common? They were all members of the same order, the ancient and mystic Rosicrucian order, which is considered the oldest fraternity in the world, destined to studying, experimenting, and practicing the highest principles of nature, of the human being and the universe, having Pharaoh Akhenaton as the first traditional grandmaster of the order. Would that order be composed of the enlightened ones who found the Philosopher's Stone, or maybe a gathering of secret masters who rule the world, a conspiracy in order to dominate the planet? Who are, after all, the Rosicrucians? What do they want? What do they seek? What do they teach? Many are the vexed questions concerning life and destiny which man would seek to answer. Have I lived this life on earth before? Does this life continue after that which is called death? Are mind and thought independent of the human organism? Does man possess higher faculties than those he is in the habit of using day after day? And so, how can those faculties be unfolded? Let us first of all survey briefly the history of the Rosicrucian fraternity. The fraternity owes its origin to the archaic teachings of the Atlanteans who passed on their knowledge to the early Egyptians. By tradition, and in some instances by writings, the knowledge has been passed on to the present time. The fraternity bearing the name Rosicrucian was founded as such in Europe during the medieval ages, and its purpose was to teach the esoteric side of Christianity and, in addition, to promulgate Eastern mystery science and philosophy in a form adaptable to the minds of European people. The Rosicrucian organization wasn't related to any single authoritative figure, and it wasn't aligned with any particular form of control structure. There wasn't an institution for it. It was actually a very free and independent direction of modern initiation. During the centuries which have elapsed since the medieval age, a vast amount of knowledge has been accumulated. Furthermore, the accumulated knowledge has proved to be practicable. That which could not be applied to practice has been archived as mystery teaching and treated in a manner more philosophic than scientific. Much regarding the history has been written by others, and many of these have forgotten or do not know that the order does not advertise itself, and that all writings for the outside world and for the purposes of tradition are written in symbolic form. Even famous people like Socrates or Aristotle and others were also involved in secret schools. Why would someone turn their teachings into secrets? Because society persecutes anything it does not agree with. So because of that, a school becomes secret, which happened very much in Europe. Because dogmatic religious practices try to suppress anything that would gather collective interest. They wanted to destroy what was perceived as a threat, to eliminate those people and their ideas. Like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians believe in a supreme architect of the universe, though the term universe in the Rosicrucian sense refers only to a sun with its attendant planets. The Rosicrucians use the term cosmos for the millions of universes in existence in space, and the ruler and guide of all these is a supreme architect or absolute consciousness. That this supreme ruler gives ear unto every individual being who asks for favors is not the belief of the fraternity, realizing as it does that the Supreme has endowed human beings with inherent faculties and powers, by means of which they may overcome the difficulties which wait upon their ignorance. When we think in a specific manner, all of our thoughts and feelings, all of our inner states have a vibrational quality to them, and they will resonate like an antenna and tune into the energies of the exact same time. So if we have very negative thoughts and feelings, they will open space for us to synchronize with the influence of our emonic beings. To be able to contact the Supreme Architect means that the being possesses an unfolded consciousness equivalent to that of cosmos. Such being would have no need to manifest in a physical body or world. That a physical being may contact in his consciousness a higher being than himself, though infinitely lower than the Absolute, is the belief of all Rosicrucians. What is important to know is that it all begins with the thought process, with actually understanding non-physical realities, knowing about the greater spiritual realities from which we come, and the spiritual depths of oneself. This is connected to the spiritual centers inside the head, and this is also related to the elimination of the thinking process, so that with this process we actually become aware of the structure of the spiritual world, how we interact with it, how the spiritual world influences us at all times. And within this Rosicrucian system, that would technically be known as a process of initiation. Space is populated by entities of all degrees of consciousness. Some of these have been embodied in physical vehicles and others have not. That these entities, irrespective of whether they have been embodied in the flesh or not, can help mankind is the knowledge of all true Rosicrucians. Human beings possess a consciousness by means of which they may know themselves and the world about them. How much they may know depends upon the degree to which their consciousness has unfolded. In Rosicrucian philosophy, the mind is considered to function in three ways as follows: mind objective, mind subjective, mind superconscious. The mind objective is that which rules the voluntary acts of the organism and works through the cerebrospinal nervous system. The mind subjective is that which rules the involuntary acts of the organism and works through the sympathetic nervous system. The superconscious mind is that which manifests as a result of the working of the objective and subjective minds. The three minds respectively have their location in the three brains: the cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. The cerebrum concerns itself with the present state of affairs, the cerebellum with the past, and the medulla oblongata with the past, present, and future. The superconscious mind may be considered the acme of consciousness. The objective and subjective minds rule the body and soul, and the superconscious mind is the avenue for the spirit's expression. And now we're heading to what the Rosicrucian initiation is about and why it is the way it is. Beginning with analyzing our own inner lives, what we have to be aware of, what we are thinking, what we are feeling, what we are doing. Because most of the time we are completely unconscious. Humanity as a whole is asleep. We think we're awake, carrying on with our lives, but we're still fast asleep. We just keep repeating the same reactive psychological patterns again and again and again. The process of self-observation is fundamental in basically all classical initiation traditions. Without self-observation, you can't begin to solidify such level of awareness, and you can't start changing your disruptive psychological patterns of how you think, how you interact with people, how you feel internally to something more beneficial. The Rosicrucians know that humans are constituted as body, soul, and spirit. In the right understanding and unfoldment of the three minds as one lies the key to the solving of the problems of life and destiny. Nature is constantly revealing its secrets to us, but we may never know those secrets unless we seek for them. Before disease manifests in the human body, nature always gives a warning, and if a man does not heed the warning, he will suffer. In mental diseases, there is one that gives the key to the functions of the three minds mentioned before. The disease is known as general paralysis of the insane, or to put it briefly, GPI. In this disease, the unfortunate sufferer slowly but surely loses his consciousness and passes from a fully conscious man to the state of an infant, incapable of controlling the voluntary function of the body. In the last stages, consciousness withdraws completely from the cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. Along the path of initiation, as you begin to understand what other people don't, there can be the temptation to use that knowledge to manipulate others. In Rosicrucianism, there's a very strong rule saying that all the powers and understandings gained on the path will be put to the service of others. The great secret of practical occultism is to be able to function at will in any of the three brains. The infant, when it comes into the world, manifests from the medulla oblongata. As it grows and takes experiences of life, it functions through the cerebellum and finally the cerebrum. During the latter functioning, its forehead broadens as well as the crown of the head, and slowly but surely the infant becomes a conscious thinker. In practical occultism, as known to the Rosicrucian, this process is reversed, and as the consciousness is centered in the different brains by an effort of will, the experiences of the present and the past are reviewed. The result of this is not only the acquirement of a long memory, but also a checking of those tendencies which retard unfoldment in the occult sense.
Initiation is in fact a process of becoming aware of who I am, why I am here, where I come from, and how to develop a quality by which I can become more self-aware and speed up my inner development.
Human beings think today because minds have thought in the past, and as a result of that, they think into their own life and world for their own specific purposes. That which brings about the unfoldment of higher faculties is new thinking, a new grooving of the brain as a result of efforts of the will to penetrate into the three brains.
The initiation also develops into being able to think in a way that goes beyond the simple automatic thinking of our minds. It's what the Rosicrucians call sense-free thinking. It means our mind gains access to the pure archetypes from the mind of God.
There are in the head and throat 3 centers or glands which play an important part in this unfoldment. They are known as the pineal gland, the pituitary body, and the thyroid gland. These glands have a special function of their own, but their functions may be blended and linked up with the functions of the 3 brains and states of consciousness. It is the will that determines all this. The right use of the will and the method of controlling the glands, brain, and mind is the great secret of the Rosicrucians.
And that's what the Greeks understood as sacred geometry. They understood that what they were actually meditating on was sense-free thinking. Being able to actually go into resonance with the actual forms from the mind of God that hold the patterns of everything in the world, into communion with the mind of God.
You may have by now noticed how everything works in a threefold manner. As examples, 3 states of consciousness, 3 brains, 3 glands, and human beings constituted as threefold beings: body, soul, and spirit. The mystery of the Trinity need not be sought any further than the physical organism, for the kingdom of God is found within the human being. In the science of alchemy, 3 terms are used as salt, sulfur, and mercury. Nature functions in a threefold manner, and the work of the practical occultist or Rosicrucian is to link his unfolded powers with those of the greater nature. By so doing, he learns the secret of life, and to him there comes the knowledge that there is no death in God's great cosmos, but progress from one state of matter to another. He learns that the mind can exist outside of a physical organism, and that by means of the mind, he can link up with other entities, either in or out of physical bodies. Time becomes to him only an illusion, for he perceives that there is nothing but duration, infinite life everywhere, from the meanest microbe to the mightiest of worlds.
The yogic culture invested itself absolutely in the geometric aspect of life. Yoga means aligning your own geometry with the cosmic geometry, so that your experience of life is enhanced in such a way that what is you and what is cosmos becomes a reflection of yourself, or, in other words, you become a reflection of the cosmos.
A world of magic opens up to the occultist's mind when he has rightly unfolded the faculties which lie slumbering within himself, when he sees how he can consciously cause changes within himself or outside of himself as he desires or wills. The way to this unfoldment is not easy, but it is possible to those who are willing to undergo the training necessary.
The comprehension of this sacred geometry doesn't come unless you tune into certain inner processes. In ancient times, the only way you could understand such complex geometry was studying your own physical and mental structure, observing the planets and astronomical phenomena.
There are many unbelievers in the world, but this small video is destined especially for those who do believe. To those who do not, we say learn more about your own brain, there is much in it. Do not imprison that which seeks for an outer expression.
If you want to know a little more about clairvoyance and the secret teachings of the Rosicrucians, this next video is just about that.